Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday morning. The Football Scoop podcast is back. Saturday was phenomenal. Yesterday was NFL, pretty good. Honestly, NFL offensive coordinators are pretty fun to watch. Whatever. Let's talk college football, gentlemen. We had some incredible games. John Bryce was at one of the games of the year, perhaps. Northern Illinois got Notre Dame in South Bend. John Bryce, give me a little, give me some reaction to that one.
Yeah, I think that the Notre Dame team that truly dominated the fourth quarter last week at Texas A&M to win and give Notre Dame, any coach at Notre Dame, a win at an SEC school for the first time in 20 years. That identity didn't translate whatsoever this weekend. All the equity that Marcus Freeman had lost had gained one game into his third season is now beyond gone. The natives are incredibly restless. A really wholly damning loss for Notre Dame that gives the Irish absolutely zero margin for error the remainder of the year. 10 weeks, 10 games left on the Notre Dame schedule. It's a pretty soft schedule overall. Florida State looks down. Louisville's ranked. USC's ranked, obviously. But beyond that, there's not a lot on this Notre Dame schedule. So just the type of loss that Notre Dame absolutely could not afford, especially when Notre Dame had designs on trying to be that 5 seed, and by winning at Texas A&M had given itself an early position to potentially accomplish that. Now I think the Irish absolutely have to run the table all the way out to USC, and then it depends on what type of team USC is at that point in the season. But the most damaging loss for Marcus Freeman, the worst loss for Notre Dame compared to the spread since 1996 against Northwestern. They were also around 26-point favorites, I think, that day that the Irish lost straight up to Northwestern, 28.5-point favorites on this day. Riley Leonard ran the ball well early, did not throw the ball well, especially downfield. And then now this is just really debilitating losses 3 times already for Marcus Freeman in 29 games that he's been a 2-touchdown or more favorite. Marshall in 22, Stanford in 22, and now Northern Illinois this year. So just a really deflating loss for the Irish nation.
So Northern Illinois, earned a lot of respect, and it was a great story to watch play out. They got a chance in 2 weeks. They have NC State, who's down a little, but you beat Notre Dame, you go at NC State, and you beat them too. All of a sudden, Northern Illinois is like, "Hey, fellas, how we doing?" That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Northern Illinois got opportunity contests left, and because it got this win, it could be that group of 5 team at the end of the year, especially if they play for the MAC championship and win it in that way. So this was as damaging as this was for Notre Dame. It's even more boat lifting for the Huskies.
Yeah, to me, it shows. I mean, we're so much focus in this sport is on the new playoff, and is Notre Dame still in? Is Florida State done? Blah, blah, blah. This shows that the power of the college football regular season game is still there, and this regular season still means more than any sport. Northern Illinois is a program with a proud history. They've won a whole lot of MAC championships. They've played in an Orange Bowl, but this was the peak of their program's existence, bar none. I mean, it was people across the sports world talking about Northern Illinois. There's no way that's ever happened if not for this game. And then from Notre Dame's perspective, they're outgained in this game by 100 yards. Like, if you look at the box score, it probably shouldn't have been as close as it was. And to me, Riley Leonard, great young man, great leader, date your daughter, run for president, all that stuff. He's great at so much of playing quarterback except for actually throwing the football. He was, 6 yards per attempt. I mean, he was one of the biggest free agent acquisitions in college football this year, and he put such a governor on Notre Dame's offense.
Well, there's no question that he has to run effectively in order to throw effectively because it generates larger throwing windows for him. They ran Riley Leonard, I think, 7 times in the first quarter Saturday, and they scored on their opening touchdown drive, and then they only ran him 3 to 4 times after that. You could see Riley Leonard holding his shoulder at different points during the game. He took some really hard hits, and I talked to somebody who was with players and with the team near game's end who said that Riley Leonard wasn't in a sling but was very much holding his right arm So I think that was significant. I think because of that, they dialed him back running. And again, they cannot be effective with Riley Leonard, only a passing quarterback, again, because he needs his legs to make his arm more accurate.
He was a player that I would must watch, must see at Duke. I thought he was phenomenal, and I was, obviously we all saw it was different yesterday for whatever reason.
And he beat Texas A&M with his arm and his legs. I mean, he had the brilliant back shoulder throw to Bo Collins on what proved to be Notre Dame's game-winning touchdown drive a week ago, but no downfield rhythm against the Huskies. The offensive line that is so young regressed from week 1 to week 2. Marcus Freeman went and very publicly said they had incredibly demanding physical practices last week. And obviously hindsight's always 20/20, but based on Marcus's own comments and the way that team looked Saturday, they looked beat down. They did not look ready to match Northern Illinois' physicality at the point of the attack.
Zach, let me ask you to talk us through Texas, Michigan. I know you wrote about it in advance, and then it happened. What did we see?
Yeah, you look at I think the ultimate testament to how dominant Texas was if Michigan had won this game, the conversation would have been, oh my gosh, this program, these players are so tough, they out-tough everyone, they're going to be ranked in the top 5. And instead, Texas beat them down to the point where it's like, Michigan, are we sure they're even should be ranked? Is this team going to go 8-4? Is this team going to go 6-6? Blah, blah, blah. It was a thorough domination that the 19-point margin didn't tell the full story. Texas had a touchdown called back on their opening drive to a BS holding call. Michigan gave no threat from their offense. It was a game where you feel like Texas played well, but they weren't playing above their heads. It was just a solid A to A- performance, and they won by 20 points and could have been larger. And you feel where if they played that game again, Texas probably wins it by 20 points again. So this is a program that has very much earned its lofty spot, and they're primed for bigger and better things than beating the defending national champions on their home field.
I'm with you. Doug, I'm going to come to you. South Florida was giving Alabama way more than they wanted in that game at Saban Field, Bryant-Denny. Doug, you saw it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I think Alex Golesh and his staff did a great job. And when you think of Alex Golesh, you think of offense, but to hold a Kalen DeBoer and Alabama offense to 13 points there into the fourth quarter. The defensive staff of the Bulls did an outstanding job. They brought some exotic blitzes that I don't think they had shown the first 2 weeks. Gave some double mug looks and dropped guys off, and really gave Alabama all they could handle pressure wise, and were able to pressure the quarterback. And group of 4 programs should not be able to, or group of 5 programs shouldn't do that to Power 4 the way that they played. So was really impressed with how they played top to bottom. They'll always be explosive with the athletes in the recruiting territory that they stake their flag to, but they gave Alabama absolutely all they can handle.
In the early window, go ahead, JB.
I was just going to say that game was 21-16 deep into the fourth quarter before Alabama got a couple of turnovers, broke a long run, had a pick 6. That game was right there in doubt, and I had coaches texting me Saturday night saying, what is it that helps South Florida play Alabama close every year? Well, it's just 2 years in a row, but 2 years in a row, Saban's last year, DeBoer's first year here, obviously, Golesh has done a fabulous job of scheming them up and really doing a lot to keep South Florida in those games. Last year was a big, nasty, muddy rain fest down in Tampa, but this year, Golesh is what he's done in short order at South Florida is really impressive.
Golesh is a ball coach. I remember South Florida settled for a field goal attempt. They were down like inside the 10 maybe. And I think even the TV at the time was like, this might be one where you go for it. I don't know how many more shots you'd get. And then Alabama came and, like 17-year-old receiver who took it to the house. That kid's got some wheels. All right, I want to talk through a couple other top 10 games. I'm not going to talk about Georgia and Ohio State just destroying people because the level of competition was different. Oregon had Boise State coming to town, and golly, Boise State is fun to watch. Good football team. Oregon isn't playing their best yet, but they found a way. Zach, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about on Thursday how their offensive line coach, Alec Terry, had them wearing those 2.9 shirts, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they were thoroughly outrushed again by Boise State. Part of that is Ashton Janty's the Heisman Trophy favorite through 2 weeks, and part of that is Oregon's offensive line and their run game is not explosive right now, not explosive, not consistent. And this is a team that I'm glad I did not pick to win the national championship because they don't look like they're of that caliber.
Y'all don't even understand how much fun bold predictions is. Illinois got a big win this week. Okay, Tennessee's offense is phenomenal. It's fun to watch. JB, they just handled NC State. I think we all kind of saw that coming after NC State struggling week one. But any other thoughts real quick on Tennessee's offense and the whole team?
Real quickly, it's the Tennessee defense that is probably playing beyond measure right now. And, of course, everyone knows James Pierce, projected potential top 5 pick. He's really smooth as an edge rusher and does a lot for that defense. But they're playing really well across the entire defensive line. They're older at the linebacker group. They're getting really good play in the secondary, particularly from a 4-star member, in-state guy of their 24 signing class, Boo Carter. Here's my stat of the day on Tennessee's win against NC State. Tennessee's defense had more tackles for loss than NC State had total first downs. That's right. You heard me. Tennessee's defense had 13 TFLs. NC State only had 10 first downs the entire game.
That's absurd and awesome.
That's suffocating. And that's exactly what Tennessee did. Tennessee scored 51 points in just 31 minutes of possession time, basically, but did win the time of possession. So, again, when Tennessee wins the time of possession, you know that the Vols are doing exactly what they want when they want it because of the tempo at which they like to play. So they have to have a ton of possessions. They have to be doing a lot right to win time of possession. That's just not a central component of their offense, but they're doing that. And they did that against NC State. But again, the defense, 13 TFLs, only 10 first downs allowed.
Yeah, there's 3 tiers to which I evaluate teams. It's this team can make the playoff, this team can make the Final Four, and this team can win a national championship. And Tennessee, to me, has moved from this team can make the playoff to this team can make the Final Four, and is at that point, you're a legit threat to at least play for a national championship.
So week one, Penn State looked really good. I thought really good. The offense, I was very impressed with. Defense was solid. All right, we got Bowling Green. We're at home.
Scott Loeffler almost got the type of win that just completely changes his course at Bowling Green. Instead, the Falcons could only muster 3 points in the second half. It just isn't that Bowling Green stayed in that game. Bowling Green had a 10-point lead in the first half, and Penn State looked really lost. And then Penn State outscores them like 20-3 in the second half or 20-3 down the stretch to win that contest by a touchdown. But you expect Penn State to be carried by its defense with an improving offense, and that was not the case against Bowling Green.
Yeah, I think Bowling Green is going to be pretty good, and at the same time, I think Penn State was bit by the same bug that got Notre Dame. We put a lot of emphasis on our week one game, a lot of physically, emotionally, all that stuff, and now it's human nature. We're coming home to play Bowling Green, and we're not going to take it as seriously as a road game at West Virginia.
Man, home game, I don't know. Bowling Green looked really good, I thought. Iowa State. We all picked Iowa. We thought the offense was going to be exciting. It wasn't. Big kudos to Matt Campbell and squad. Any thoughts on that one, gentlemen?
I think for Kirk Ferentz to trot out, I believe, a freshman field goal kicker that had never really taken a kick like that in that situations. I'm sorry, for Matt Campbell to do that. Speaks to the trust that he has in that unit, and I feel like that was a culture win. That was Matt Campbell's always known for developing a great culture. I think that's gotten lost the past couple of years with the rough seasons they've had. But I think he's won the past 2 Cyhawk trophies, so he's on a roll.
I think that's a great point from Doug. Also, I think that if you're Iowa and you have that game at home and you're ahead, I believe 13-0 in the second half and 19-7 in the fourth quarter, you found a way to lose. And I'm not taking anything away from Iowa State, but when you're the bigger program at home, you found a way to lose that game, much the way that I feel like Notre Dame found a way to lose Saturday, and Northern Illinois took advantage of those found opportunities and won the game. Iowa State did the exact same thing. I was very surprised at the Cyclones getting the win. We discussed on our weekend primer going into the games this past weekend that Iowa State just has not had anything remotely resembling consistent success. Zach had the great stat about how rarely Iowa State had ever even scored 17 points in the series. And another red flag for the Iowa offense, especially after scoring 40 points in week 1.
Cade McNamara, 13 29, 99 yards, 2 interceptions. There's no way he's the best quarterback in that Iowa quarterback room.
Yeah, but when
he is, go ahead, Doug.
When you get suspended for a game for illegally recruiting him, I feel like you got to play him. You got to make that
one point
worth it.
I'm joking, kind of. Is Kirk Ferentz the governor? I mean, week 1 without him, the offense was pretty stout in the second half.
The answer to that is in either one form or another, macro or micro. The answer is yes. Kirk Ferentz is the governor.
All right. So week 1, UNLV took care of Houston. They just kind of dispatched Houston. Right? Willie Fritz in a transition year, different players, different scheme. Houston, it's going to have a tough time. Houston goes to Oklahoma, and oh boy, wow, Oklahoma. Can we have a talk? Zach, give me some thoughts there.
I have a lot of close friends that are Sooners, and I've never heard them more despondent after an Oklahoma loss than I have after this win. I mean, Brent Venables mentioned 2 times that they should have lost the game, and he was correct. There's on the one hand, you could say it's a new coordinator, new rebuilt offensive line, redshirt freshman quarterback. What do you expect? On the other hand, this is a team that lost at home to UNLV by 20 last week. They play a good Tulane team this coming up, and then they got Tennessee at home to start off a brutal SEC schedule. If things don't improve fast, this could be a 6-win season for Oklahoma, and there's no reason to assume that things would improve fast because they're coming off a training camp and basically 2 preseason games where things have not improved fast. So what reason to believe do you have that they're going to get better as the schedule gets tougher?
Yeah, and Jackson Arnold is the young quarterback, so you would expect some progression there, but obviously it was regression. Oklahoma's offense did not score in the second half of that game, and at home against the Houston team that really was non-competitive the week before against UNLV.
I felt bad for Seth Luttrell. Every time the TV went to him, he looked so upset. It was or disappointed. I don't know. That was rough. So I picked Tulane to beat Kansas State. Actually, I felt pretty confident in that one, and it was a great game. Tulane, I thought, played well, had a couple of turnovers, and there was some other stuff. And K-State found a way to get it done. I'm just letting you know right now. I'm picking Tulane to beat Oklahoma. I think Tulane's playing better football. It's at Oklahoma. I don't even know if that's bold. That's where I am. Moving on. Kansas, Illinois. We all said this was going to be a great game. 2 very well-coached teams. It was an entertaining ball game, and Bielema's team found the way. Any thoughts on that one, gentlemen?
We have a lot on that game, obviously. We all have tons of thoughts. I mean, my overarching thought is Lance Leipold, I guess it's a compliment to him that you're pissed at Kansas if you're a fan for losing a game to a Big Ten team. You feel like you should be above that, but a testament to Bielema getting it done.
Yeah, I just thought that, like we discussed going into the weekend, if Illinois was able to control the trenches, control the tempo on the line of scrimmage, that would be the Illini's chance to win. And that, to me, is what I saw as Illinois' path to victory and why Bielema and company got that victory.
I'm going to write on this one a little bit, but there was a soundbite from Brett Bielema after the game where he talked about in his pregame meeting with the officials, and this is so important if you're a coach with concerns before the game. He talked with the officials during that pregame meeting about Kansas liking to split out a big and use a rub route down in the red zone, and so he gave them a heads up beforehand. Lance Leipold did that later in the game. And so that pregame meeting ended up having a direct impact on the outcome of that game. So credit to Brett Bielema being a dang veteran coach and covering that in that pregame meeting with officials. Because without it, the outcome might have been slightly different in Leipold's favor.
Slightly different. Yeah, could have been an L or a W. Week one, I always think Tim Albin's teams in Ohio are well coached, and they were up in Syracuse's business, and Ohio was playing very well, and Fran Brown's team found a way to get it done week one, and then Georgia Tech was coming to town, and Fran Brown's team did it there too. Kudos to those guys at Syracuse. A strong start.
Yeah, Syracuse teams under Dino had a history of starting fast and then falling off. So obviously different regime, but you hope they can avoid that history.
In speaking with coaches, there's always a lot of respect on App State's name, and Clemson whipped them. We'll see how App State responds, but that was impressive. Auburn had Cal coming to town, chances for Auburn to get right, get things going. And, buddy, Cal played extremely well. Cal earned that W, and that was interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn was a team that I thought could find a way to 10 wins if everything went properly, especially the way Hugh Freeze has always had second-year success in every program that he's been at. I don't think they have the answer right now at quarterback with Peyton Thorne, the former Michigan State QB. It has not worked out the way that Auburn had envisioned there. Even there was supposed to be this huge leap that we all would see in year two, specifically out of him. We have not seen that. It was pretty interesting. I saw a Hugh Freeze post-game clip where he was being asked basically what's reasonable to expect for Auburn to do in year two, because Kirby Smart had gotten Georgia to play for a national title in year two at Georgia, and that was just Kirby's second year as a head coach, period. And Hugh said, no, I don't think that's right. I think it took him 3 or 4 years. He got corrected and said, no, year two, they played for a natty. He goes, wow, okay, well, that's pretty good. So you could tell that was a little jarring. That was also a little indicative of the fact that it was a really damaging a really damaging loss for Hugh Freeze at Auburn. And he's got to try to find a way moving forward to regain some of the equity there that was lost by that defeat to Cal and Justin Wilcox. And remember, Auburn should have won the game a year ago at Cal and just had a litany of turnovers and lost a one-possession game. And this was by far a worse performance from a holistic standpoint.
Well, this game was 5-0 turnovers in favor of Cal. 5-0. So you're never going to win a game when it's that. And so far, one of the overarching storylines of this season to me that's going to spill into future seasons is we talked about Florida State with DJU. We talked about Riley Leonard with Notre Dame. We talked about Iowa with Cade McNamara. And now Auburn with Peyton Thorne. Just because you go out and make a big free agent acquisition to get a Power 4 quarterback, you could dress him in different clothes, but he's not going to be a different player unless you have game-changing scheme or coach. I mean, the investment that these programs are making into these transfer quarterbacks makes or breaks them. Miami with Cam Ward, they've hit gold there. That's going to change their season. But these other guys, I mean, these teams that are struggling because they have veteran quarterbacks that they paid a lot of money to get, and it's not working out.
I don't think that's wholly true. You look at DJU at Oregon State, and he was a completely different player than he was at Clemson and that he was at Florida State. So is that credit to Jonathan Smith and the staff at Oregon State at that time, that they simply overachieved with him. I don't think that's blanketly true.
To me, if you look at DJ, I think the outlier is that Jonathan Smith and what they did at Oregon State those guys are just that good, and they're off to a really good start at Michigan State as well.
Well, it's 3 different offensive systems in 3 years, and I think that's critical to note. And then it's also at Oregon State last year, he had the fabulous running back to help him, and right now we're not seeing much of a run game from Florida State. And I just think, in talking with some coaches, the report on DJ is that if his first read is open, he's a good to above average quarterback. But if he has to start going through progressions, he can't go through the progressions, and he cannot elevate his teammates around him.
That's the number one job of quarterbacks. So that's not the good housekeeping stamp of approval.
So JB was willing to put it on the line early in the season that Kentucky was not going to be great this year. JB was right. I don't understand what Kentucky was even trying to do offensively. I watched a lot of that game. Nothing made sense. The offensive line was porous. The quarterback, I don't even know I got nothing. Literally nothing. And that's a place where South Carolina, if South Carolina can flex on anyone, it's Kentucky, I believe, at this point.
I should have worn sunglasses for this segment. I'm just incredibly disappointed right now in this moment in myself that I didn't wear sunglasses to break down this game. What an absolute failure by me. Fortunately, South Carolina did put sunglasses on on a helmet, put that helmet on midfield, and flexed on Kentucky post-game with a victory that trolled the Wildcats, and specifically Mark Stoops, who infamously made those comments 2 years ago. Oh, I'm not changing the climate. I'm changing the culture. Anybody can change the climate. You put on some sunglasses and you dance around. And it was a perceived shot at Shane Beamer in South Carolina. The Gamecocks have won 2 of the last 3 meetings, and 2 of them in Lexington. I do believe those wins, obviously this past weekend was. And Mark Stoops hasn't changed the culture. It's the culture is losing in Kentucky football. They lost a big game that they were 11.5-point favorites, I believe, against the Gamecocks. There's great news, though. Hey, top-ranked Georgia's on the way. What could go wrong?
You hardly hear anyone criticize Mark Stoops. And I mean, this is year 12. He's had 2 10-win seasons, 1 8-win season. None of that. It's replacement level football. I mean, people are just praise the guy over and over. Kentucky's this great job. What a great job he's done. He's done an average job. He's done an average job. A lot of coaches could do what Mark Stoops has done in Kentucky.
He's won a lot of MAC championships by default.
Yeah.
They've had some seasons where they've had like 3 MAC teams on the schedule.
He's better than Joker Phillips.
Notre Dame would like to win. Notre Dame would like to win a MAC championship right now after losing to NIU over the weekend. Here's another sobering stat, especially when you consider that Mark Stoops was being heavily courted by Texas A&M until Ross Bjork, pretty much
why.
Yeah, got told you'll be on the Hangman's platform if you hire Mark Stoops. He's 2-8 in his last 10 SEC home games. 2-8 at home, not just his last 10 SEC games. He's 2-8 in his last 10 SEC home games. And again, number 1 Georgia coming to town.
There are a million other games I'd love to talk about, gentlemen. We're 30 minutes deep. Give me short sound bites here, there, and anywhere you want to go. I'm going to say LSU, pedestrian versus Nicholls State at home opener, Tiger Stadium. Army, on the other hand, Army is a fun team to watch. That quarterback is a dude. He's a great All-American, great American. He's going to be a hero for our country, but he's a heck of a football player too.
I just
would
would
open
like,
the floor.
If I could make 2 quick ones. Shout out to Ken Niumatalolo and San Jose State winning at Air Force 17-7. That's a heck of a win. The other game I cannot believe we haven't talked about before this point is Colorado and Prime at Nebraska. Matt Rule saying it really wasn't a contest in the second half, and he's right. Nebraska led that game 28-0 at the half, ended up winning 28-10. It was a throwaway touchdown late that Colorado got. Colorado's same issues from a year ago that were supposed to be so much better are still there. Shedeur Sanders getting sacked too much. He ended up getting knocked out of this game. He was sacked 5 times. They still have no running game. They finished with 0 net rushing yards Saturday night against the Huskers, and Dylan Raiola certainly looks like the real deal for Big Red. So shout out to Big Doug Sams for highlighting Nebraska as a potential dark horse team. I will say, I said going into that game on our weekend primer last week, Nebraska will whip that tail, and Nebraska whipped that tail.
I got 2 games. One, you heard it here first that Texas State was a threat to beat UTSA for the first time ever. I did not see a 49-10 beatdown coming. So Texas State, enjoy G.J. Kinney while you have him, because that guy's going to make a lot of money very, very soon. And 2, this game hasn't really gotten any buzz nationally, but the way Virginia came back to beat Wake Forest, you almost never see. And I say that because Virginia was outrushed. Virginia was outpassed. Wake Forest scored first. Wake Forest led at halftime. Wake Forest won turnovers. That I've tracked thousands of games at this point. That's only the second time so far that I've seen that happen. So more on that game on FootballScoop.com later today.
I've got 2 as well. FIU and the fighting pit bulls. I'm just gonna refer to them from
absolutely
now on.
100%. Yes.
Yep. Thumping Central Michigan 52-16. I mean, Jim McElwain and one of the veteran MAC coaches to get dressed down like that is not a great look. And then Bryant Vincent and UL Monroe winning 32-6 over Trent Dilfer and UAB. I mean, one of us said that Vincent did a 10-year stint at UAB. He was there for a long, long time. And then UAB decided to go with a former NFL coach that was a high school coach instead of hiring someone that knew the inner workings at UAB. And he got to go there and put it on him. So I'm happy for them in that staff.
We've never seen Mr. Worldwide, Pitbull, and Doug at the same time. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Brian Vincent. He was offense coordinator at UAB. He was the interim head coach. They had a chance to hire him. They didn't. And it's not that I'm excited they beat Trent Dilfer's team. He got to go back to that university and plant his flag with perhaps a team that wasn't expected to beat him. And they thumped him. It's a great story.
Indeed.
Gentlemen, Football Scoop Podcast. We started here in Echo. That means it's time to wrap it up. We're out of here. Everybody have a great day.